Want to see one of the fastest ways to clear T13 that can be done with crap gear and crap paragon? Great. Let me introduce you to the Season 16 Charge Barb. What's going on, guys? It's the Filthy Casual, back with another Diablo 3 build video. This one's an in-seasonal one, and it's the Season 16 Charge Barbarian. And my word, this has had some juice this season. But before I show it to you, if I could ask two favours. First, if you could drop a like rating on the video, it would really help me grow the channel, get these videos to other people who might be stuck or might be interested in them. And secondly, if you do like Diablo content, build videos, discussion videos, tips and tricks, then subscribe. I'm aiming to get 2 to 3 videos out a week. So now that's out the way, let's get into the Charge Barb. Now under 261 this was a really strong build, and as I said earlier, it's been given significant juice this season. So it's benefited from the IK buff because Charge Barb runs on a blend of IK and Raycore. IK's gone from 1500% to 4000%, so that's a pretty big jump, and also we're going to use the in-season buff quite well. So the buff is the Ring of Royal Grandeur for free, and normally speaking in a Charge Barb you would put this in the cube and you'd wear a Band of Might for your damage reduction. Because we get RORG for free, it means Band of Might can go in the cube, and we can slap on Focus and Restraint and get over a double damage modifier. So that's why this build will absolutely trash T13 with the worst of the worst gear. When I say the worst of the worst, I mean it. I'll show you my gear as we go. I've only bothered to put 2 legendary gems in this build because I haven't bothered to reroll my amulet. That's how strong it is. If I had Bane of the Trapped, my damage would go up 30-40%. I only have 1 ancient piece out of the 13, which is my helm, and the rolls on it are shocking. But I can still fly through T13, so as soon as you get these pieces, you'll be able to fly through this too, and as you improve the build, it will only get quicker. That's enough of a history lesson, so let's jump into the build. So you're going to be wearing 5 pieces of Immortal King and 3 pieces of Raycore. With the seasonal buff, that means you'll get the 6-piece IK bonus and the 4-piece Raycore. So let's go through the gear, and let's go through the skills and how it all works. So for IK, you're going to be taking the weapon and the belt, because obviously these are unavailable on the Raycore set. For Raycore, you definitely be taking the shoulders, because there are no IK shoulders. Now I'd recommend also taking the gloves for Raycore, because if you're going to be making any kind of IK push build, you're probably not going to want cooldown on your gloves, so it makes more sense to get Raycore gloves with cooldown on. But hey, if you find 2 good pieces of IK gloves, then one's got cooldown, then by all means use it. So mix and match, just as long as you've got 5 pieces of IK with the weapon and the belt, and 3 pieces of Raycore, definitely with the shoulders. So looking at the dominant set, which is IK, the 2-piece bonus says that Call of the Ancients last until they die. We're going to be taking the Together as 1 rune on this skill, so that's a 50% damage reduction, which is lovely. Now the 4-piece IK will reduce the cooldown on Wrath of the Berserker for every 10 Fury that you spend. So we're going to be dumping Fury by using Ancient Spear Boulder Toss. This does no damage, but it will proc half of your Focus and Restraint, and it will bring your Wrath of the Berserker down because it's essentially a Fury dump. Now this is important because the 6-piece of IK says that whilst Call of the Ancients and Wrath of the Berserker are up, you're going to deal 4000% extra damage. So you want Wrath of the Berserker up all the time. By dumping your Fury like this, you will definitely have Wrath of the Berserker up 100% of the time. The rune we're going to take on Wrath of the Berserker is Insanity for an extra 50% damage. So obviously the main damage dealer we've got in the build is going to be Furious Charge because it's a Charge Barb. So let's have a little look at the Raycore set that we're also using. Now the 2-piece is that every time you hit 1 enemy only, you get a charge refunded. So that's super useful if you only hit 1 enemy. Now the 4-piece, Furious Charge has its damage increased by 1000%, and you gain the effect of every rune on Furious Charge, and there's some really good ones. Battering Ram gives you extra damage. Merciless Assault will reduce the cooldown by 2 seconds for every enemy hit. Now bear in mind this is on a 10-second cooldown, so therefore if you're hitting 5 enemies, that's a complete charge reset. In fact, the level of cooldown you're going to be having, which is 37%, will mean that with this rune on, you're only going to have to hit 3 or more enemies to get a charge back. So 1 enemy hit for the 2-piece will refund the charge, 3 enemies or more hit will again refund the charge. You're also going to get Stamina, which is going to give you more Fury per enemy hit. You're going to get Cold Rush, so you're going to freeze enemies that you don't instantly vaporize. And you're going to get Dreadnought, meaning you get 3 charges stored. So this is an excellent ability skill, and it makes this build like absolute grease lightning. Now we're going to be juicing up Furious Charge by 2 items in the cube: the weapon, a standoff, and the shoulders, the Vile Ward. Now the standoff will give you 500% multiplicative damage based on your move speed. So we'll talk about how we're going to juice that up in a sec. We'll do the Vile Ward first. So this gives an extra 35% damage for every enemy hit. So if you hit 1 enemy, only 35% multiplier. If you hit 10 enemies, 350%. So obviously, as you can see, the more enemies that you charge into, the bigger this effect is. Now this obviously pairs really well with the Merciless Assault rune, because the more enemies you hit, the more damage you do, the more likely you are to refund the charge. So back to the move speed, you're going to have 25% from your gear and from your paragon. You're going to have 20% from your Wrath of the Berserker, which is going to have permanent uptime. We're going to be taking Marathon with the Sprint rune, and that'll give you an extra 40% when activated. This is a skill that does cost Fury, but you'll have it up quite a lot of the time. In fact, all the time if you play perfectly. We're also going to be taking 2 legendary gems that will buff move speed. So the first is the Wreath of Lightning. So when you hit, you've got a chance to cast out lightning, and under this effect you'll increase your move speed by 25%. You're also going to be taking the Boon of the Hoarder, and what that does is when you kill enemies they drop gold, and when you pick it up you get 30% move speed for 2 seconds. Now both my gems are level 25, that's not a big deal for the Wreath of Lightning, but this build would be much better if I'd bothered to rank the Boon of the Hoarder up to level 50. That would give a 100% chance for enemies to drop gold, so I'd be proccing that move speed buff an awful lot more. So that just leaves 1 skill, and that is going to be Warcry with the Charge rune. Not just because it's a Charge Barb, but I find there's only really 2 things that can go wrong whilst playing the Charge Barb. Number 1, you can run out of charges, either by failing to hit an enemy or by hitting 2 enemies a few times. The only way you can alleviate that is by increasing your cooldown and making it so that your charges refund quicker. So there's no real skill that you can take that will benefit that. But the other problem sometimes you'll find is you're so excited charging round, particularly if you get a channeling pylon, that you forget to dump your Fury, and therefore you haven't procced your Wrath of the Berserker. Now if your Wrath of the Berserker is not up, you're not getting your 4000% multiplier, so you're not really doing much damage at all. So if this happens, cast Ancient Spear as soon as you realise. That might reset Wrath of the Berserker, and if it doesn't, you can then instantly pop Warcry for an extra 50 Fury, recast Ancient Spear again, and those 2 casts should clear your Wrath of the Berserker cooldown, or at least get you exceptionally close. So basically this is just insurance in case you cock up and don't have Wrath of the Berserker up. Plus it gives you 20% armor buff, so that's always nice. But I find that I do tend to make a few mistakes when I'm playing this build because it is quite cognitively challenging, you've got to be paying attention, so this is just insurance to make sure that it's a little bit of a smoother ride. Now if you're pretty good at playing this build you can always swap this out. Battle Rage Bloodshed would deal more damage, but to be honest this does so much damage as it is that I reckon it's probably not going to be necessary. Now in terms of passives, because I'm playing hardcore I've gone for Nerves of Steel, but in theory you probably wouldn't want this. You'd also want to get a Hellfire Amulet to make sure that you get 5 passes. I haven't bothered, I'm still rocking a crappy Traveller's Pledge that I found. Well, I say crappy, it's got double crit on it, but I'd be much better served with a Hellfire with a socket. Your other passives are going to be Rampage for extra damage when you kill enemies, up to 25% strength. Brawler, because again this will synergize well with your Vile Ward and your Merciless Assault. You want to be charging into big groups of enemies, so you want the damage buff from Brawler. You definitely want to be taking Pound of Flesh, which will give you a move speed buff when you take a Health Globe. So more move speed, more damage. Then the final passive is Ruthless, so just in case you don't instantly vaporize the Rift Guardian or an Elite pack or a Champ pack, then once they get to low health you'll be dealing extra damage. So that just leaves a couple of gear pieces. Nemesis Braces will spawn more Elite and Champion packs when you click a pylon or a shrine. That's going to be great for DBs, it's going to be great for Rift progression so you can get your keys quicker. Now if you can't find these, Wazekian Arm Guards will do a job because they'll give you a move speed buff when you destroy wreckable objects. And with the Wreath of Lightning going off so often, this will be up quite a lot of the time, but Nems is definitely the choice. Now whichever bracer you get, look at the elemental damage on it. It's not particularly important which it is, but what you need to do is you need to go and select the rune on Furious Charge that matches the element on your bracer. So for example, if you have fire on your braces, you're going to put the fire rune on Furious Charge to eke out that extra bit of damage. You're also going to want to run a Hellfire Amulet. We'll get onto the passives when I cover the rest of them, but that's going to be your best in slot for there. And as I said earlier, I'm running a Traveller's Pledge with no Compass Rose and no Socket. And then the last item is one that I've covered already, but it's in the cube. It's the Band of Might. This gives you an 80% damage reduction whenever you Furious Charge, and obviously it's a Charge Barb, so you're charging all the time. This is up 100% of the time, provided you press Furious Charge. So with that and the together as one, you are pretty tanky in this build. So that pretty much wraps up the skills, the gear and the passives. Start priorities, cooldown minus 34% in footage, but you want to get 37, and anything over and above that will help because you'll help alleviate the problem of making a mistake. So if you run out of charges, the more cooldown, the quicker they come back. But in general, as long as you're not charging into two enemies, as long as you're not over spamming your Furious Charge when there's nothing around, using it as an ability skill, then you should be fine. Now I'll always use it as an ability skill whilst I've got 3 up, and then I won't want to drop below 2, just in case I accidentally charge into 2 enemies whilst I've only got 1 charge. Once you get into the rhythm of it, this is a really fun build to play. It's so fast. I'm going to be really excited to see where this build is once I get to Paragon sort of 700-800, once I've got some ancient pieces. Maybe if I do some augments, it could be even quicker. Be interested to see whether you could actually take the Vile Ward off and put a Leoric's Crown in the cube, and you could end up then with enough cooldown to reset the charges if you hit 2 enemies. I think that would be pretty cool if you could gear that together, but without getting all the Paragon, I won't know. I'd also like to see how far this goes as a GR speed build, again once I've got all the pieces the way I want them. But if you do want to run GRs with this, it's certainly viable. All you do is you take out your Boon of the Hoarder and replace it with the Bane of the Powerful for a 20% damage buff. So that's it guys. As I say, T13, you'll absolutely smash it. This is filthy fast. It's a ton of fun to play. So I'm curious to know, what's your favourite T13 speed build? Leave it down below in the comments. I still probably prefer the Lazy Mancer, just for the basis that I can probably watch TV whilst playing that. This build's loads of fun, but it's not necessarily quite as chill, but it certainly is fast and you can't argue with that. So I've been the Filthy Casual. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Like, favourite, subscribe. I'll see you in Sanctuary and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.